Hey y'all, this is your girl BMORE and welcome to the Dummies Cauldron. Hey, this is your girl BMORE and you are listening to the Dummies Cauldron. So today we are going to talk about the new moon cycle starting at the end of April. It is in the sign of Taurus. Now, if you guys know me, I always kind of lean into eclipse cycles because they really set the tone for these lunations. We can go over it back and forth about what you need to do for this new moon, what you need to do for the full moon. But realistically, if you're not getting to the core of the issue of these eclipses, it doesn't really, I can argue that it is not going to make that much sense for you to kind of even try to figure out the full moons or new moons, because it is a focal point that it starts from and it creates a ripple effect. So if you are interested in the predictions or audios I did for the eclipses, they're already on my Patreon. So you can go over there and join my Patreon. They are for the $5 tier and up. And you can take a listen to those. Depending, I might be nice and release maybe part of it, or maybe do something for people who are free. Even if you're on the free tier, I still give people predictions or transits that they can listen to or read. So get on over there, join my Patreon. I'll be able to give you stuff more. I mainly post on it almost a couple times a week, and you're able to see what the transits are and different things like that. So for here, we're about one new moon post the solar eclipse. The last solar eclipse we had was at the end of March. So now we're here in the sign of Taurus, and with Taurus we deal with a lot of things. As you can see from this, if you go to the section that says 9, then the section we have is 12, 6, and 3, we are seeing a cross of fixed signs. So Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, they're all fixed signs. So this shape is what we call a grand cross. Here in fixed signs, these give us a focal point on what is the core issue, number one. What can we reproduce or do more of or get more of? What can we get rid of? And things that center around that. So what are we keeping, maintaining, or giving away? What is the source or the core of the matter? What is the source of the issue? And we see that as a focal point. So here in Taurus is a Venus sign. So it deals with pleasure. It deals with relationships. It deals with money and how much we can enjoy the world, or how happy we can be. Now we have the sun and moon conjunct. That is basically the hallmarks for a new moon. You need the sun and moon to conjunct in a sign at a very close degree, and that will give you a new moon. So as you can see, around the ninth house, you see the sun and the moon conjuncting at 7 degrees of Taurus in the star of Hamal. Okay. This month, we're going to experience a lot of people trying to figure out what their needs are and really wrestling with survival instincts. Could this be a very aggressive moon? Yes. Could this be a moon where you're going out and getting it? Yes, you can use it for your drive, whatever your drives are. However, when we're talking about drives, what is needed, what should we keep and maintain as far as any resource, sometimes that goes very left. Sometimes it gets very crazy. So I am just going to off rip say for this month, everyone be safe, everyone be careful. Because what we're going to experience, I would really recommend, if you know someone, something, someplace is dangerous, stay away from it. Because we're talking about the idea of what is survival. Okay, so yes, can one end that goes to resources? Sure. Can the other end is going to go to people fighting it out? Sure. Okay, so if you are not sure about what's safe, what's unsafe, blah, 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 say goodbye to that. All right, try some seclusion. Try some isolation. All right? Because this deals with the act of survival. And yes, Taurus can be patient and conservative, but also Taurus has a argumentative, greedy, materialistic, and a cruel nature. All the fixed signs have a cruel nature. Every last one of them. Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, they have it's a cruelness there to it. Because it's kind of what is necessary for the fixed signs. Okay? And now here, the ruler of Taurus goes into Pisces. So here, when Venus is in Pisces, it's artistic, it's compassionate, it's emotional, it's self-sacrificing, it's intuitive, it's introspective. There could be some procrastination and maybe some pessimism and melancholiness, or just being lazy. But it's also what has yet to be established. So it's the imagination. So imagination is something that is yet to be established. I know people say there's imaginative, but what Pisces really is something that is not real or tangible yet. So what I really recommend is try not to make problems as well. Make up problems that don't exist. And just be mindful of what you say and do. All right? That's what I would just recommend off rip. I think it would be good as well to examine your relationships and how happy or content you are. Because there can be maybe unspoken desires that maybe have not been tapped into or understood very well. And I think once you understand what the desires are and what you're looking for, it will actually cut down on a lot of the confusion. So that's number one. Number two, and it will be good for you to embrace your uniqueness. Socializing to some extent can be good. I will also suggest people to do planning. If you do not have a plan and you want to do things, I really like the impulsiveness, like hell make hair. I think that's how the saying goes. Yeah, no. All right. Try to be as disciplined and as structured as possible. Okay. And try to understand what your desire for change is. So tapping into why I subconsciously or intuitively want things to be different. Why do I feel the desire for change or something to be different? Try to get to the bottom of that, because that will actually release a lot of chaoticness out. It would just release a lot of chaotic natures out. I also would say, once we create a plan, try to work through existing structures. Okay? That's what I really would recommend. So try to stay balanced. Try to stay practical as much as possible. And try to use that practicality with maybe some subconscious desires or what you really want, and go after that. If you're not sure about what you want, just take a seat and just use this month to examine what it is you actually really want. All right? Don't be impulsive. But this is a good time for people. Like I said, this is a survival instincts, the go-getter type of thing. Be able to do that, because like when the new moons come, they actually give us new opportunities to accomplish what we want. But this isn't a sign of Taurus, so the accomplishment or going after what we want is under Taurian themes. So Taurian themes deals with tradition. It deals with artistic pursuits, sensuality, being stable, sometimes being stubborn, argumentative, and greedy, and it gives you a singular focus into that. So I actually would recommend for people to try to understand, what do they desire? What is the core of the issue? What things can they get rid of or transform and move past And that will make a lot of this easier for you. It will make a lot of this easier. Okay. So what I also see too is people possibly trying to find ways of also shrugging or trying to ditch responsibility. People being very indulgent. People being indulgent, overconsumption, being too overly optimistic. I will also recommend people to avoid fair weather friends. People who are only around when things are on the up and up. And I also would keep in mind that you may experience some rejection. You may experience rejection from people who could seem like teachers or people who are elites or someone you feel like is in a higher position. And that's okay, because we need to understand what our desires are. Sometimes rejection isn't always bad. So try to understand why limitations is good. Also try to understand what our duties are. Like, what is your duty to yourself, your family, and responsibility? Because we can also have people be delusional about self-sacrificing duties that are for them. And this can even show up with issues with Black people's husbands, people's children, disturbances in like what is our duty to ourselves and the people around us. And that is subjective because, like, again, we all don't live in the same cultures. We all don't live in the same place. So what people's duties are, what people's responsibilities are, is much different. And sometimes we can have imaginative duties that don't exist. Like, we think we are bound to people. We think we're bound to situations that we are not bound to. So that's why I said, try to take your time and realize what your desires are. Because, like, again, this is a good time to go after things. But if you are not sure who I'm bound to, who am I responsible to, what are my duties? Am I being indulgent and not paying attention to what my duties are? Maybe it's you got issues with your husband. Maybe it's you got issues and, I don't know, you taking some courses, it's not going right. Maybe your children are kind of cutting up right now. Whatever the case is, understand what your duties are. Okay. I will also recommend people to during this time, because it is an aggressive transit, try not to make enemies if you don't need to. All right. Some people are going to be very verbally combative, and people need to understand that we don't always have to make things worse than what they are. All right. So that is the best way I'm doing it, because I'm trying to explain it in a way where I don't really want you guys to be disempowered or afraid, because that's not how I see it. I think this is a placement for people to be wise. All right. And so be wise of who we're sacrificing for and what we're doing, because there's a big energy of maybe we set ourselves up. Maybe we feel duped. Maybe we're taken unawares. Maybe there's gossip. People putting the burden of things on you that is not your burden. And then you're working hard to accomplish these things. That is not your business. All right. So just really focus on what's for you, and it can feel like you have a chip on your shoulder, but is the chip real or not? Is it really an issue with this person or not? Do I have unspoken desires that maybe I didn't push through? So like I said, avoid dangerous places, avoid difficult people. If you're not sure of what to do, try to, and I know it can be hard because there is a thing where people can have deceptions in relationships or not see things clearly. Try to get sound advice, and keep your ego in check. I know it's easy to get very frustrated when things do not go our way. But that's life. Things aren't supposed to always go our way. Just try to persevere and do what you need to do. Okay. That is my main thing. Also, you will see a lot more things that center around people's sexuality and or taboo expressions of sexuality. And if you go back to like April the 20th, because even just a little bit before April the 20th, like can just go maybe like around the 17th, 19th, we can start to see things shape in where we're having conversations or things are coming into the collective consciousness about people talking about taboo sexual expressions, people talking about revenge, who they do and don't like. We're seeing that slide in a lot. Also, people with an abuse of power in institutions. So just keep that in mind. We also have Lilith and Scorpio now, and I'm thinking about doing something to break down Lilith and Scorpio. But people can be rebuffed or rejected for taboo forms of self-expression that no one asked for, no one's interested in. And we could see this with people with excuse me. We could see this with people with fixed signs or placements that are impacted by a fixed sign. So keep that in mind, because people can be rebuffed, because Lilith is now in Scorpio. It's not in Lilith anymore. And there's a bit more of heaviness or more ferocity and viciousness. And so people are more willing to tell more darker secrets about other people. There can be a lack of compromise. And it just as much as like people feel like lusty or they feel an attraction to someone or something, try to look at like pros and cons before socializing, because again, there can be a lot of foot and mouth or conflict issues because there's a lack of compromise. There could be issues with finances, people feeling like things aren't reciprocated, and just, being overly critical, expecting too much of others, a selfishness, one could say. So this is also bringing out some of the darker end or the darker natures of these things. So take your time. If you feel frustrated or irritated, really, like I said, get to the source. Because you don't want to get it where you're so nitpicky and irritated that you drive everyone away that could be of support for you. But, get to the source of what is irritating you. If it's not going to impact you long term, then just ignore it. This can also sometimes bring issues with women. Maybe people have dealt with controlling women, issues in the public, issues with tools, fire, and the road. If it's too much, I would really try to have some alone time. That might be the best thing for you. Learn your limits. Try to avoid high stress or nervous situations. If you feel a need to try to switch it up, like out of desire for change, just try to switch up your schedule. Keep it simple. So maybe you play a new game. Maybe you try a new time management schedule. Try to just keep it simple, because there's a desire really to break free from all of these restrictions, which can create clashes with people. And it can be very also just impractical. It's just not realistic. So like it's a very rebellious, unrealistic, at its worst, that could be a thing. Like being rebellious and unrealistic, like rebelling against your identity, mother and father, your family, trying even being too conservative as like a shot back to how rebellious you are. So like people can also sometimes I see go into hyper conservatism, or like a reject of freedoms, like fighting for, I guess one could argue, fighting for the prison that you're in. But try to take things slow, because you don't want to overly make mistakes and get into these power plays and just all of this other stuff. So take things slow, try to resist doing too much, because I'm telling you, it can go really crazy really quick and get very vicious. Because again, we're talking about the cross, as you can see on the screen, the cross of vitality. So the fixed cross, it gets into a primal nature, and we already have Lilith a part of it, and Lilith is a primal thing anyway. So what do we actually need? Anyone who's having issues with maybe some impulse issues, aggression, or even sexual health issues, just go to the hospital instantly. That's what I really would recommend, because there could be some issues with people's reproductive health, and so try to take those seriously. Or elimination issues, so people could be constipated, people can have like nasal congestion, like things that it should excrete but it is not. So the nose is supposed to excrete air, it's supposed to make you sneeze like I just did, to excrete like pollen or things or dust particles. Your booty is supposed to excrete matter, so that way you're not holding on to it. If you're having issues excreting or getting rid of things or waste products that are supposed to be getting rid of, get that checked out. If your body refuses to hold on to things that it's supposed to hold on to, like the opposite end of constipation, and like, take that seriously. So any type of body part or anything in your life that's kind of mirroring that, just pay attention to it. I will be doing the rising signs and stuff like that in a separate video. It's going to be chopped in half because these videos can get really long. They can get like an hour or 2 hours. So I'm just talking about just the moon phase in this one and what the month would be like. So I'm just trying to just level with y'all, just keep it very simple, but it could be issues in relationships, issues with money, wealth. Just try not, I'm really just trying to level with y'all. Like the best I can do is try to keep it simple. I do see that there could be a thing too with people taking on different appearances or different looks for the sake of troublemaking, because we have Pluto and Altair. We also have people doing like violent things from high up. So violent people in like their superiors. We can also see the idea of like, I'll give an example, like, I don't know, people dropping a bomb or sending them something through social media or saying something through the air that is aggressive. So like arguments. Keep that in mind. Okay. So it can get very, very, very wild, very crazy. We can also see people trying to sacrifice things or give up things. Maybe people are trying to get in shape or whatever. I think that's might be a bit more positive aspect of this. We can even see people possibly be like, they kind of like get scapegoated. There's a overall level of intolerance here. Again, I'm hoping that people just lean into understanding what their desires are, being artistic. But yeah, it's just like a really, I'm gonna be honest, it's a raggediness here that is just really crazy, because like people can have like intense emotions, but they're also emotionally blocked. Like, how like you watch children and you like, why did you do that? And then they're like, I don't know. Like they're honest about what the issue is or isn't, but they're also honest like that they're blocked and they don't understand what the issue is. But yeah, like power struggles, fanaticism, just difficult people. I also will use this time too to clean up and release any emotions and things that, or identities or things that you do not want. So like, if you just got out of bed, break up, go process that. Whatever, however you need to do it in a healthy way. So if you need to get a therapist, if you, whatever it is, try to go process that. Clean your house, clean your job, like anything that's sloppy, clean all of that. Be mindful of your associates, you know, because they can bring problems to you. I will also say for people who want to improve or they're thinking about using this for self-improvement, really start slow, because wholesale change is rarely ever lasting or smart. So try to start slow and be mindful of what you're changing. So if you want to change maybe your eating habits, or maybe you're not getting the best sleep, or your spending habits, start slow and start practical. Like I said, the best thing you can do is just be practical. Like, just innovate on what you already have or what is already there and try to level up from there. You're going to be able to do well. If you can mix that with what you want to change or what you no longer need and can get rid of it, that would be good. Like I said, think of the motive. Sometimes if we see external changes, they can be representative of an internal change. There is some type of ideas in astrology where we see if transits develop as a disease versus an event versus something like almost like a psychism or like half event, half emotional response. That can also tell you how well a person is integrating the transits or integrating these types of responses. But internal change usually is a projection of external change is usually a projection of the internal issues that people may or may not struggle with. Use this time to adapt, regroup, and just restart. You know, people may want to fight for their beliefs and all this other stuff, but that could be a way that they internalize the issues with change and things that they don't like about change. You know, things could be hard to kind of like get off the ground. But like I said, if you keep persevering and doing what you need to do, you're going to be able to make inroads at some point. You're going to be able to create that new reality, or kind of like what you're kind of want to go after, you know. But this is also a time where we see a lot of things that center around religion, maybe the condition of the air, so people having like allergies, sneezing, etc., conditions of crops, sometimes issues with the firstborn. But again, be mindful of, like, I'm gonna just keep saying it, really be mindful of who you hang around. Like, yes, you can overcome any obstacle, but the ends do have to justify the means. Like, that's just really what it is, because like we can intentionally or unintentionally bring struggle and sorrow on ourselves and for the people around us. So really try to keep in mind what our actions are. I guess the best word I can say for this one is be intentional. Be intentional. You know, if you can be intentional while being diligent, this could be good. This could be good for you. The other thing too is, like I talked about before, do not be too indulgent. You know, do not be too indulgent. Learn restraint. So I guess the two main things I would tell you guys is restraint and intentions. If you can manage that, you're going to survive, or you're going to do good. If you have no restraint, if you have no like intentions, like everything is very specific, this is going to be hard for you. And then the last thing I would tell people is to try introspection, whether that be through spirituality, art, whatever it is. Those are my three main things for you: intention, restriction, introspection, whether it be through spirituality, meditation, art, whatever, but it has to be done. All right. I'll be doing the rises in the second one, but good luck, y'all. Bye. Bye.